Welcome. Tonight on And Another Thing About Tartan, instead of another blog from me on the joys of operating in lockdown, I thought we would introduce a few of the interesting characters that we've been lucky enough to meet as we've travelled around the world. So this evening, our very first guest, we welcome Alan McHale, all the way from Florida, virtually of course, to tell us his story. And we met Alan and his lovely wife Joan when we were out in Florida at the beginning of March, and when we were happily oblivious to everything that was about to happen in the world. And Alan has just been appointed president of the Scottish American Society of Dunedin and is originally from Edinburgh. So, Alan, can you tell us your very romantic story about how you came to be in Florida?
Yes, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. The story goes way back to 1969 when I used to travel to school with a neighbour of mine. And the neighbour, her name is Daisy, she had a family who had emigrated to the United States. The family came to visit, and I was introduced to Daisy's nieces, Anne and Joan. And Joan and I were a year apart, but we became extremely good pen pals for probably 2 to 3 years to begin with. And then Joan came back in 1971-72, and I took the plunge and asked her mum if I could take her out on a date. So we both had our first date walking up Arthur's Seat, and we had a very romantic lunch in the Woolworths Cafe on Princess Street. Fast forward then to 1976, and that was the last time I saw Joan, just before I got married. And we didn't really have any communication until the year 2000, when Joan was visiting United States, back to Scotland to visit an aunt, and she looked me up while she was coming over, and I could let Joan talk about that a little bit. But Joan said that she looked myself up, and she also looked up a long-lost uncle. So if she didn't reach or find me, at least she would have found another member of her family. But we got together, and I came over here on a couple of visits. And then in March of 2001, I decided to come over here and try my luck at setting up a life in America. And just by coincidence, good fortune, Joan was living in Dunedin at the time. And Dunedin is a very Scottish community. So Joan and I have been involved for probably the best part now of about 13 or 14 years in the Scottish side of the social life in Dunedin. Dunedin was first founded by Scots back in 1882. Two Scotsmen started the first post office. And then in 1957, when the middle school was built, someone suggested that they should have piping lessons at the school. And they applied to an organisation in Dundee for a set of bagpipes. And the set of bagpipes were the onset of what is now a very large piping program within Dunedin. There's a large Highland dance program, and the Scottish American Society, which I'm president of this year, has been going now for about 40, I think this is our 40th anniversary. So a very Scottish community, and just by luck, Joan happened to be living here. So that's kind of how we got here, and a little background about the Scottish heritage within Dunedin.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and so Dunedin then, it's Gaelic for Edinburgh, isn't it? But it's twinned with Stirling in Scotland.
Right.
So do you know why that is then?
Don't know why. No.
No, it's really strange. I noticed that I went to university in Stirling, so I thought, oh, that's very interesting.
No, you're right. They're just formalizing their sister city program as well in the city.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. Oh, well, maybe one of our listeners will know, and then they'll be able to email in and tell us the answer to that question. So you were talking about the pipe band then. And I know when we were out, they were about to come across. We were at one of the Highland Games at the South East Florida Highland Games, and they played there, so we heard them play. So, do you play the pipes yourself? Then, have you had any part in that?
My only association with the pipe band itself was I used to be a snare drummer back in the day, but I went down a rock and roll field rather than or a rock and roll lifestyle rather than bagpipes. But as part of our involvement in the Scottish programme here, Joan and I were fortunate enough to be involved with running the Dunedin Highland Games and Festival, as well as the Celtic Festival within the city. And we did that for 5 or 6 years up to a couple of years ago. So we got highly involved because the programme to run the Highland Games helped to fund both the city pipe band as well as the middle school and the high school pipe bands. So yeah, we've been involved with it from that perspective for a number of years, but not directly. I'm not a piper.
I think you've maybe got enough to do, Alan, without doing that.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
So you're involved in setting up the Highland Games. So what prompted that then? Did that come from interest in the community or particular individuals, or?
I think I've always been interested in the entertainment side of life. Goes back to my rock and roll days. But the actual story is more to do with Joan than it was directly for myself, because she worked in City Hall, and the person who was organising it at that time used to come into City Hall for permits and to make a nuisance of himself for the City Commission to get permission to do everything. His name was Sandy Keith, and Joan became a friend of his. And he asked Joan if she wanted to come along to the committee and help out. And Joan dragged me along at that time to get involved. So really it was Joan that was behind it initially. And I joined her, and we became quite a partnership in putting that programme together.
Yeah, brilliant. And we're hoping to join you in November if life is normal.
Well, hopefully, yes.
Yeah, surely by then. So going back then to the Scottish American Society, what does your role involve then? You're president now. So how did you get to that, to become president, and what do you have to do now? What's your job there?
I've been a member of the organisation for a couple of years, or maybe 4 years, or 4 or 5 years altogether. And the society itself were struggling a little bit a couple of years ago, and I had some spare time on my hands, and they asked myself and Joan to come along and help. In the last couple of years, though, we joined their committee and started to put some programs together. Their membership was kind of diminishing. A lot of the members were aging, and there was a reduction in the number of people who were surviving. They also were quite reliant on what we call the snowbirds. That's those that are based up north in Canada or up in the northern states of the United States and come down here during the winter only. They winter here. So they had a large part of their membership that were only here part-time, only here part of the year. And for an organization like that, it was difficult for them to survive. So they asked if I would get involved and see if I could do something to turn it around. Myself and Joan were involved in the early stages. So what we've done in the last couple of years is we started a program of what we call haggis concerts. We came up with a name just for a bit of fun, really, to put some Scottish accent to it. But we've been bringing in Celtic or Scottish traditional folk music, or traditional, you would call it Scottish fusion music, if you like. I think that's probably the best description. It started back probably 2 years ago now, round about this time, with a band called Runa. And then they became a monthly feature for us that helped us to attract a completely new audience for the Scottish American Society. And up until the pandemic kicked in, probably towards the end of February, beginning of March, we had quite an audience that were turning up. And the last thing we did was we had a whole weekend festival of, we called it Celtic music, but it featured Skerryvore from Tiree in Scotland. It also had we had bands here from Canada, from the United States, and there were 10 or 12 venues within the city of Dunedin that were involved in it. The Scottish American Society, though, the hall that we have is where we headquarter. That is able to have about 170 people in the hall, and we've had a program of renovating that hall as well, and that's been quite a bit of a job. Yeah, see a picture of the front of the building there, but that doesn't tell the whole story. The story behind the hall, though, is that it's actually was the first designated historic building in Dunedin. It was originally an annex to the school, and it was situated about half a mile away from its current location, and it was brought there on wheels back about 40, 45, maybe 50 years ago. So the building itself has had some history.
Yeah.
The outside of it we can't do much with, but we've literally repainted and redecorated. And right now, if you could see closely, I've got some white paint on my hands right now because I'm back working on it while we're going through the close down, as it were. But yeah, so we've resurrected the membership, and Joan has now got 100 new members, at least 100 new members to the organisation, and we've turned our finances around. It's now becoming a venue that people are travelling to from all around the United States. We had advertised in Celtic Life, a bit like yourself, and that brought in some audience, and we're now known as a destination for Celtic and Scottish roots music. So we're quite pleased with that. We also have a whole programme of other events, typical Scottish events, like a Burns Supper. We had a Hogmanay party, first real Hogmanay party, which went on until the early hours of the morning. Normally, they would finish early and almost get home before the midnight, but we did that, and we had a St Andrew's Pie and Pint night back in November. So we've kind of turned the programme around, and it's because we're situated downtown, it's become quite an attractive venue.
Yeah, well, we had obviously had our pop-up shop there, and it was brilliant. Not only, Joan, because you gave us lots of lovely cakes to eat while we were there, but no, it's a lovely little building. I thought it had real character. It was very nice. We look forward to returning. So what do you then, in terms of thinking about back to Scotland, do you have things that you miss? You've got come home much, or?
Joan and I try to get over there every year, if we can. We were there. I was there twice last year, but principally because I have a new grandson over there, who's he's about 15 months, 16 months old now. Joan still has family over there too. Joan's got an uncle that still lives in Leith, and she has a couple of aunts and cousins that are there too. So we try to go over, if not every year, every other year. In terms of what I miss, I don't miss the weather. I do miss I do miss the family. Although we've been very fortunate the last few times we've been in Scotland, the weather has been really good. It's never been an issue for us. I miss some of the food that I was used to growing up. There's some items of Scottish food that you can't get here, like a pork pie. You can't buy that here. So normally, before I leave the airport, or even a sausage roll, it's hard to come by. You have to go looking for sausage rolls here. But we do get haggis here. And interestingly enough, Joan and I were working in the hall the other day, and she went to open the door where you see at the front of the building, and she couldn't open it, and she had to push it. And when she opened it, there was 2 cans of haggis that somebody had left us at the front of the building. So I don't know where it came from. I don't know who left it there, but the haggis fairies had left us a couple of things. So
we take donations at all of our events for a local charity called Dunedin Cares. It's a food bank. Yeah. And we're thinking someone just wanted to leave some Scottish food for the food bank.
Yeah. I hope whoever receives it Scottish and welcomes it. I think it's
so.
Sometimes regarded a bit suspiciously, isn't it?
Well, Alan said the cans are damaged, and I said that was me shoving the door against, trying to open the door.
Oh, a good gift. Good.
Yes.
And so, what about tartan then, Alan? Are you a big fan of tartan? Or how many
Well,
kilts have you got?
yes, we are, and we have actually. Joan has a little tartan story that you would have noticed the start of it in the hall when you were there. But I'll let Joan explain what she's done since you left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm redoing all the clan crests that are around the borders of the building on the inside, up on the walls. You probably saw about a dozen.
Yeah. Yes.
Now we're up to 70.
Oh wow.
And yeah, they're not all installed yet because most of them are still at the printer. I've done them digitally, and then a printer is actually adding color backgrounds to all the different ones, making them look really nice. The latest thing I did was I made one for each branch of the military here, because they all have tartans, like the Army, the Marines, and that. So that's going to be a nice addition. People that come to the hall love it. They come in and they look up at their tartan and they try to find their clan and take pictures. And so it's been a lot of work, but it's going to be beautiful. It's going to add something to the hall.
Yeah, that's
We're also building a library, and that there's that spare room. It's empty now. We've taken everything out. We're going to do the walls and the flooring and build a library in there. We have a lot of Scottish artifacts and books, and people have given us things, statues and paintings, and we want to have a record of things. Plus, the city is working on their sister city program, and we'd like to use it kind of almost like a Scottish museum in some part. Like, where do you go to find something Scottish? We're not open all the time, but it would be nice to have some things there when people do come, and have a little education there. Maybe have a sign-in book for people from Scotland, and offer something.
Well, we were really
thinking.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I think a sign-in book's really nice, isn't it? Because we were really struck by everybody we met had a story, and that, of how they were linked to Scotland, and it's really interesting. It's good. Yeah.
Well, in the city of Dunedin, we've got two different kinds of community. We've either got the Scots or those that want to be Scots.
Well, I think it is the most Scottish place I've ever been. Is it? Because the centre's on Scotland Street, isn't it?
Yeah. That's true. All the streets.
Yeah.
There's Braymore. There's out on the. Did you go out to Honeymoon Island? Did you make?
We did. Yes. On your recommendation, we did. Yes.
Right. Well, there was the apartments out there. It's Elgin Place and.
Forres.
Yeah. Lots of Scottish names out there.
Scottish Towers out there.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you've got Glen Eagles. You've got the Fairway Estates is all Scottish golf courses. That's the name of the street. So you've got Scotland Street downtown, but there's a bunch of Scottish organisations around the city as well, like the Daughters of Scotia and Scottish American Military Society, as well as ourselves. Yeah, so there's a lot of there's very few weekends that you can go downtown and not see people in kilts, which is more than you can say for Princess Street in Edinburgh.
You're probably right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a Scottish dog.
Oh, here we go.
And she's got a tartan on too.
She has her tartan on. I'm not sure the name of this one. This was actually one of my kilts when I was a little girl.
I think, is it Buchanan maybe?
It looks like it.
It's close to the Buchanan, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very cute. Very cute. Oh, so you can't really get more Scottish than that then.
No,
you can't. Others, we've got a Scottish Terrier as well. She's bouncing around somewhere.
Yes, I did. I saw her tail wagging in the background.
Did you?
Yeah.
But for the tartan question, I'm a McDougall. I have a McDougall kilt, and Joan is a Murray, so she has the Murray tartan as well.
Yeah,
I bought it from you too, from the Scotland shop.
Oh,
right.
I did. I bought it online a few years ago.
Oh, at least they're good tartans. They look nice together as well.
Yes.
You're well coordinated.
Yes.
We try to be, yeah.
Very good. Well, that concludes my questions. thank you very much for joining us. And especially as I know, Alan, you rushed home from work to speak to us, so I do appreciate it. And we couldn't have felt more welcome when we visited, so thank you very much as well for having us with you. And my son was lucky enough to join us when we came, and as chief van packer was his job. But his sister has never forgiven me for not bringing her as well. So we can't wait to come back, and we'll hopefully bring her with us. So
we would love to welcome you back, and you'd be welcome back anytime. Anytime.
Thank you.
And if there's anything we can help with your business over here in the United States, just ask us, and we'd really be willing to do whatever it takes to help boost what you need to happen here.
No, that's great.
Thank you for the invite. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
You know, thank you very much. No, I genuinely, I had never been to Florida. I was very taken when we did our whole tour of the state, and just so many lovely people we met. So thank you for looking after us.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome. You take care.
Thank you.
All the best.
You don't have to be Scottish to join the Scottish American Society and join in all the fun at the Cultural Centre. And Emily will post you a link here so you can find out more and get in touch with them if you'd like to. And meantime, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Alan and Joan for joining us tonight. And we couldn't have felt more welcome when we visited Florida, and we can't wait to come back.